Hey people, today we're going to be talking about classifying triangles. None of this should be new at all. It's just kind of some review that we need to cover real quick. Okay, so just so you remember the parts of a triangle, okay, you have points A, B, and C. So AC, AB, and BC are all the sides of your triangles. Okay, and points A, B, and C are your vertices, or your points on the triangle. Okay, so make sure that you know there are three sides, you know there are three vertices that go with your triangle. Okay, so there are four different triangle classifications that you need to know about. Okay, the first one is called an acute triangle. Okay, so this first guy is called an acute triangle. Okay, and what an acute triangle is when you have three acute angles. Three acute angles. So each of these angles would need to be less than 90 degrees to be an acute angle, or acute triangle. Okay, the next type is going to be your equiangular triangle. Equiangular. And an equiangular triangle is one where you have three congruent acute angles. So all of these angles are the same. So you have three congruent acute angles. Okay, so equiangular, you have three congruent acute angles. Okay, the next one you should be very familiar with is called a right triangle. Okay, right triangle. And you, of course, know that right triangle has an angle of 90 degrees. Okay, so you only have one angle of 90 degrees. You should be very familiar with that one. Okay, the last one is called an obtuse triangle. Okay, an obtuse triangle. And in an obtuse triangle, you have one obtuse angle. And remember, an obtuse angle is just an angle that is greater than 90 degrees. So for instance, in this one, this angle would be greater than 90 degrees. Okay, so here's the four different types of triangles that you need to know how to classify. Okay, so you're going to be given examples, and you're going to be asked to classify which type of triangle it's going to be. Okay, so in this one, we're going to classify triangle BDC. So this guy right here outlined in red. Okay, so we know that angle B right here appears to be 100 degrees. Okay, so since that's 100 degrees, we know that angle B is obtuse. Okay, and since angle B is obtuse, triangle BDC would be obtuse. Okay, so don't make these harder than you need to. You just need to remember your different classifications and which one should fall in which category. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, about the same type of triangle. Okay, so this time you're looking at triangle ABD, or this specific triangle right here. And in that triangle, it looks like you have a 20-degree angle, you have a 80-degree angle, and since triangles have to add up to 180 degrees, those guys add up to 100, so you know you have 80 degrees left, so your last angle must be 80 degrees. Okay, since you have a 20, 80, and 80 degree angle, you know that you have three angles that are less than 90 degrees or acute, so you have an acute triangle. Okay, so you have an acute triangle on that one. Okay, let's try one more here. Okay, so we're wanting to find triangle FHG and decide what type of triangle it is. Okay, so right here you'll notice that you have a 90-degree angle. Okay, but that's for triangle EHG, not for FHG. So since this is a 30-degree angle, we can take 90 minus 30 and get 60 degrees. And since this is 60 degrees, you can see that you have three different angles that are acute and 60. So since they're all 60, you can say that triangle FHG is equiangular. Okay, so hopefully you're tracking with this stuff. If you need to rewatch, you can go ahead and do that. All right. Okay, the next part that we need to do is classifying triangles by side lengths. But before we do that, got a joke for you. This one's really corny as usual. And here it is. What did one plate say to the other? Think about it. Think about it. Dinner's on me. Ha 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 ha. Oh yeah. Okay, so we're going to learn about triangle side lengths here. Okay, so the first type, if you have a triangle with three congruent sides, then you have an equilateral triangle. Equilateral triangle, three congruent sides. Okay, your next type is going to be this guy. And when you have two congruent sides, so two different congruent sides, that triangle would be classified as an isosceles triangle. So when you have two congruent sides, you have an isosceles triangle. And the last side, or the last triangle, if you have one where all sides are not congruent, or you have no congruent sides, you have a scalene. Okay, so a scalene has no congruent sides. Okay, so there's all of your different triangle classifications by side length. So let's go ahead and practice a few and determine what type they are. Okay, so we want to classify triangle EHF. Okay, so this guy right here. Okay, and we would have side length of 12. And then it looks like EF is 10. And it says that EF is congruent to HF, so they would also be 10. Okay, so since you have a triangle that has two congruent sides, you would then classify it as an isosceles triangle. Okay, so this guy is isosceles. All right, this time we're going to do EHG. Okay, so we're doing the entire triangle this time. Okay, so if you look at EHG, you can see that you have a side length of 12, a side length of 11, and then this guy, you would have to add up these two pieces to get the entire side, and 10 plus 4 gives you 14. Okay, so it looks like we have three different side lengths, and since none of them are congruent, you would have a scalene triangle. All right, a couple more. Okay, let's classify triangle ACD this time. Okay, so we have side lengths of 18. we have a side length of 5. And we know that these two are congruent right here, AB and AC. So AC must be 15 as well. Okay, so we have a side lengths of 18, 5, and 15. None of those are congruent, so we must have a scalene triangle. All right, let's try one more here. Okay, so we're going to have to do a little algebra on this one. We want to find the side lengths of angle triangle JKL here. Okay, so we know that JK is congruent to KL, so we can go ahead and set up an equation for that. So we know that 4x minus 10.7 would equal 2x plus 6.3. Okay, and we need to go ahead and solve for x. So let's go ahead and do that by subtracting 2x on both sides and reducing. So we would have 2x minus 10.7 equals 6.3. And then, of course, we would want to go ahead and finish up that equation. So 2x would equal, what is that, 17? And then divide each side by 2. So x would equal 8.5. Okay, so then we want to go ahead and find each of our side lengths. Okay, so if you have 4x minus 10.7 for one side, you would plug in the 8.5 in there. Okay, so 4 times 8.5 would give you, what is that, 34, and subtract 10.7 from that, so that would give you 23.3 for your JK. Okay, for your next one, you would want to find KL. So let's plug in our 8.5 for KL. So you would have 2 times 8.5 plus 6.3. Okay, so 2 times 8.5 would be 17. Add 6.3, that would give you 23.3. And your last one, we have JL, which would be 5 times 8.5 plus 2. Okay, so 5 times 8.5, what is that? 42.5. And add 2, so you get 44.5. Okay, so here would be your 3 different side lengths. Okay, so before you start your homework, I would like you to go ahead and look at you try number 3 by yourself. See ya.